What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Eric Wilson. Today, joined by my co-host, Anthony Rivardo. Happy to say that this is officially the last off-season video that we're going to be making because the Rangers have their season opener tonight, and it should be a very exciting season full of lots of twists and turns, and hopefully it ends with the Rangers winning their first Stanley Cup in 31 years, we'll say this time around. But with the season starting and 82 games ahead of us, we figured the first video we'll make for this season will be giving a little preview and giving our predictions on what we think is going to happen, how certain players might perform, and just talk about the season as a whole. So we're going to get right on into that. But before we do, make sure you guys like, subscribe, ring the bell so you don't miss notification. Leave your thoughts and predictions for this season down in that comment section below. And lastly, be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers for daily Rangers content and updates. But Anthony, my friend, how are you doing today, and how are you feeling about this upcoming season?
I'm doing good, and I'm excited for this upcoming season. Obviously, it's going to be a long road, 82 games. Obviously, the All-Star break in between, and then the postseason. Rangers have a lot of games to play because I expect them to make the postseason. I guess that's kind of my first prediction for the video and for this upcoming season. I think the Rangers are getting back to the Stanley Cup playoffs, but I don't know if they're going in as the first seed this time around. I don't know if they're winning the President's Trophy this time around. This team has made some changes this offseason, some for the better, some for the worse. They lost a few players. They added a few players, but did they make that splash acquisition that we were hoping for? No. However, did they need to? I think that's open to debate because this roster was already pretty solid, and they made a few minor changes that might end up making a pretty significant impact down the road, and also kept themselves open to make some deals at the deadline. So you have to keep that in mind. This Rangers team right now that we're previewing for Game 1 might look a whole lot different by the time we get to Game 82. Could be quite a few moves made during the regular season and especially at the deadline. But nevertheless, tonight's game versus the Penguins, I'm hoping that the Rangers get their season off to a hot start, but it's going to be easier said than done in my eyes.
Yeah, easier said than done for sure. I will say I'm in agreement with you. I think by the time the end of this year rolls around, the Rangers will have a playoff spot waiting for them. I don't think they're going to win the President's Trophy, like you said. I look at all of the offseason moves that were made around the league. I don't think the Rangers got worse, but I think a lot of the teams around them did get significantly better. There's a lot of teams that missed the playoffs last year that might be winning their divisions this year. You know, I think of a couple teams like the Nashville Predators definitely going to come out of nowhere and surprise a lot of fans. Even teams within our own division got better. New Jersey got their goaltender, so they'll be a scary opponent once again. Obviously, Carolina is Carolina. They're going to remain good. And then you have a couple of playoff teams in there as well, like the Islanders, like the Capitals, possibly even Pittsburgh, who are playing tonight, might slip into the playoffs this season. So I think the Rangers are going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to win the President's Trophy, but I do think there is a pretty significant chance that we can win the Metropolitan Division this season once again. Like I said, a lot of the teams around us did get better, but did they get better than the Rangers? I don't think so. We still have an elite offensive core, especially in the regular season. You know, whatever happens in the playoffs happens in the playoffs. But in the regular season, Artemi Panarin's elite. Our defense is usually pretty good outside of a few suspect names that we all probably know. But I think we'll win the Metropolitan again. It might be close. I know it was a very close race last season between us and Carolina. But obviously we won that race. I think it'll be close again, if not even closer, between not just us and the Hurricanes, between us, the Hurricanes, and the Devils, and maybe even a couple other surprise teams in there. But I'm confident as far as the regular season goes. Should, fingers crossed, end in a playoff berth for the Rangers. But we'll have to see how we play. You know, obviously, it's a new season. Everything could change. Maybe Zibanejad will get worse. Maybe he'll bounce back. Maybe Trouba remembers how to play hockey. Maybe he gets even more terrible at defense. But like I said, we got to see. But another prediction that I kind of want to make here is who I think the Rangers MVP is going to be. You know, we can talk about overall success as a team, but there's also the individual efforts that are brought out by players. Last season, the regular season MVP was Artemi Panarin in his 120-point season. I don't think that's going to change. If you look at Panarin's stats throughout his career, specifically since he's joined the Rangers in 2019, he's gotten progressively better every season. His point totals have gone up, except for like one or two seasons that were a little weird because one was shortened by COVID, and then another one he had to take a leave of absence from the team for a little bit. in which I still think he did set a personal career record that year when he had to leave the team for a bit. I think the COVID year was his only slip, but he played half the amount of games. So his point totals have improved every single season he's been with the Rangers. Obviously, he hit a major boost last season, going from 96 all the way up to 120. I don't know if he's going to repeat 120 points. There might be a little bit of a decrease there just because of how significant last season was for him. But at the end of the day, I do think he's going to have at least 100 points this season. I think he's going to carry the Rangers offense once again, remaining on that second line with Vincent Trocheck and Alexis Lafreniere, who should also continue to have career years. I think Panarin's going to be our MVP in the regular season, at least once again. There's no signs of him slowing down anytime soon. Big on him. And I'm curious to know how you feel.
Yeah, I think that's an obvious pick to take Panarin as the prediction for the season MVP for the Rangers, but I'm actually going to try and add a different name to the mix. I don't want to just agree with you on this because there are a few players who could contend for that honor. I'm going to say Adam Fox is going to be the Rangers regular season MVP because if there is anything that the Rangers need to improve from last year, it's their defense. And if they are going to improve their record from last year or even match their record from last year or even come close to matching that record, it's going to be by way of the defense stepping up and performing better. And I think that Adam Fox is obviously the Rangers' best defenseman, and he's had some historically good seasons in the past, Norris Trophy winner. And I think that if he has a really good year, it's going to be the catalyst to the Rangers also having an excellent regular season. So I think that stabilizing the defensive core is of the utmost importance. You could say, hey, the team captain should be the MVP of the defensive core, right? Jacob Trouba should be the one stepping up to the plate. We all know that that's just not going to happen. Let's just call a spade a spade. But if we're looking at this defensive core, who can fix it? Who can make it be stabilized and perform at a high level? I think it's going to be Adam Fox. And obviously he's already been dealt a pretty crappy hand. His skating partner and Ryan Lindgren is out with an injury for the foreseeable future, at least the first 10 games of the season. So we'll see how long it takes for Lindgren to heal up and return. But in the meantime, the Fox and Keandre Miller pairing, I think, is interesting. I think it's really boom or bust. I think it could go very well for the Rangers, or it could be an absolute disaster. But again, if it's going to go well, if it's going to stabilize, and if this defensive core is going to improve, it's all going to be, in my opinion, because of Adam Fox. So wanted to throw a different option out there. Rangers fans might feel a little bit uneasy about Panarin going into the season, and I kind of understand. He obviously wasn't himself during the postseason. Rangers fans are bitter about that. And then through this preseason, he kept getting banged up and leaving games with mysterious lower body injuries that obviously we haven't gotten a ton of clarification on. Is that going to be a problem going through the season? Is he going to end up missing time due to some of these injuries? We don't know. So I wanted to throw a second option out there and say Adam Fox could absolutely end up being this team's MVP if he plays well. And if there are some struggles around the team, I think your top defenseman can really be that one player to fix the errors of the team and stabilize everything.
I think Fox is a phenomenal candidate for MVP. I mean, I look back at last season. Yeah, he had a couple of injuries as well that went on for a little bit, but he still did finish third most points on the entire roster as a defenseman. So he's an incredible player, and I would not be shocked if he does end up earning this award. And there's a bunch of players that we could sit here and talk about too. I mean, Igor Shesterkin, obviously best goalie in the world. A contract year for him, so he's going out there with something to prove. He's not only just winning for the team, he's trying to win for himself. So don't be shocked if he comes out playing better than ever as well. Zibanejad could also have a bounce back here. And who knows about Trouba? Maybe Trouba turns it around this year. I don't even want to count him out. I will say, I've been watching the NHL series on Amazon Prime, where Jacob Trouba was featured in an episode. Kind of makes me look at him in a different light. He talks about his captaincy and the way that he leads and how his game is a lot different than a lot of other captains in the league. He's not a flashy point scorer. He's the type of guy that's going to lay down, block some shots, stand up for his guys. Doesn't make up for his terrible defensive plays in the 2024 playoffs, but it does make me appreciate what he does a little bit more. So to the fans watching, free promotion for the NHL here. If you haven't seen the show, I highly recommend it. Very, very good. Learned a lot about the league that I didn't know before, but a lot of good guys out there on the Rangers roster that could definitely be in for MVP. But let's switch it up. Let's not talk about our best players. Let's talk about the young guys on the team for a little bit. Last season, Alexis Lafreniere had an incredible breakout season. I'm expecting that to continue. You'll probably see even higher point totals scored by him and even just better hockey all around from the former first overall draft pick. But this season, when I look at our relatively young roster, we got a lot of young guys. Kakko's young, Hedel, Foxy's even still young. Got Miller, Mancini's in the lineup now, Cooley. So many young stars on this team. Who do I think is going to make the biggest impact? To me, Keandre Miller. That might come as a surprise. I know a lot of the fans that watch this channel are pretty 50-50 on Miller. I feel like a lot of our viewers, half of them love Miller, the other half want him off this team. I typically go back and forth depending on the day. But heading into this season, been thinking about it a lot. If I'm seeing a young guy that's going to come out, have improved career stats, have a career season, to me, it's Keandre Miller. And the reason I think that is just because of all the opportunities that he's having handed to him right now. Obviously, you mentioned earlier with lingering out, Miller is starting the season as Adam Fox's defensive partner. It is a little boomer bust, like you said, because they are both kind of offensively minded. Not really sure if that's going to work out or not, but it is only temporary for now. In my opinion, I'm an optimist. I think playing with Adam Fox is only going to make Keandre Miller better. There's also the fact that Miller, so far from what we've seen, is going to be on the power play too, replacing Jacob Trouba. So the amount of opportunities Miller is being given to just produce offense as a defenseman, as an offensive-minded defenseman too, I think he's going to seize that opportunity. Also, keep in mind, we always talk about the Shesterkin contract. We talk about the Lafreniere contract. Miller's going to need to get paid soon too. So he's a young defenseman who's looking to stay around long-term, looking to make his place on this roster. He's got a lot to prove. He has all of the opportunities to do it. I'm not saying that the other guys aren't going to produce as well. Kakko might see some production as well. Cooley might have a breakout year. Even Mancini might work his way into the lineup too, and Zach Jones. They might all improve, but I think if I'm picking one player who's going to come out, surprise fans, and break out, to me, surprise pick, Keandre Miller.
I like that pick. I think that's an exciting pick. It's one to be intrigued by, and I definitely see your line of thinking with that pick. One player that I think is going to surprise some people this season is Adam Edstrom. You know, we've had a lot of discussion about Matt Rempe and how excited we are for him. And obviously, he was a spark plug for this team last year. He came into the league as a rookie, immediately started bashing heads and throwing punches at some of the top players in the NHL, some of the angriest players in the NHL, didn't back down and really provided a lot of excitement and hype to not only the players on the ice, but to the fan base, which then in turn hyped up the team even more. So Rempe did a lot of important things for this team in that regard, but at the end of the day, he was very limited on the ice. You know, what he provided in the stadium, in the arena, excellent. But on the ice, different story. He isn't the best skater. He's not the most productive point scorer. You know, all of those things true. What he really provides is a physical, mean, hard-hitting presence. But so does Adam Edstrom. And Adam Edstrom can score. He can actually put up some points. So it's kind of like getting Rempe on the ice without the fanfare and the love, but you're getting a similar ice presence, a skating presence from Adam Edstrom, and you're also getting an ability to score some points. So I think that he could be one of those players that not a lot of fans are going to talk about going into this year, but he's somebody to keep an eye on that fourth line. We all know how important it is to have solid, quality contributors in the bottom six. The Rangers have had their inconsistencies in the bottom six over the past few years. They've had guys come in like Tyler Mott who have been really productive and really stabilized things in the bottom six. Then they've had guys like Blake Wheeler, Barclay Goodrow do the exact opposite. So with a guy like Adam Edstrom, he's young. He's kind of developing into this physical presence and grinder on the ice. But again, he has a little bit of an underrated ability to score some points. So when we're looking at some of these young players that could potentially break out and ascend into larger roles or prove to be more important than we initially expect, that's who I would point to. And for the record, I think that Matt Rempe is going to get some ice time sometime this season. I don't think that, you know, him being left out of the opening night lineup means that we're not going to see any Rempe this year. He's going to get some skating time, obviously. He's very important to this team with some of the things that he does, and he's a fan favorite. But Adam Edstrom being a similar archetype of player with a little bit more scoring upside, I think makes him a player that could end up being very important to the long-term success of this team across the regular season. And in addition to him, when looking at some of these young players, Will Cooley has been awesome. He gets better every single game, I feel like. And towards the end of the year, he really started to turn it on. And now that he's had an offseason to regroup, going into another season, I don't know. He might end up being a real sleeper to have an explosive season. Like he could really step it up this year, playing on the kid line 2.0, basically. It's him, Heedle, and Kako down on the third line. I mean, he's the kid of that group now. The other two still young, but older than he is. I don't know. I like the way he plays. He also brings that physicality that's really important to the bottom six, and he also does have some point scoring ability. So I really like Will Cooley. And if I'm going to point towards any of those youngsters in the offensive core, obviously you pointed in the defensive core to DeAndre Miller. I like Cooley and Edstrom to be some guys who turn some heads this year.
Yeah, I think there's a big chance that both of those guys have incredible seasons. Obviously, like you said, the kid line 2.0. I'm big on Cooley, but in my opinion, the only way I can see him having that breakout year is if Philip Heedle stays healthy. I think Philip Heedle, it will be the catalyst that helps both Kako and Cooley improve their games. But as we know, when it comes to Philip Heedle, he's a little bit injury prone. And, obviously knock on wood, as always, fingers crossed. Let's hope that Philip Heedle stays healthy because I love Phil. He's one of my favorite guys on the team, but gets hurt quite a bit. So hopefully he stays healthy. Hopefully Cooley's able to have that breakout season as well. I don't even want to include Kako on that. Kako's not going to break out. I'll be straight up. It's not going to happen. But Cooley maybe. But and then as far as Edstrom, I have high hopes for Adam Edstrom this season. I think you might have mentioned it when you were saying your case for him, but Edstrom is in the lineup tonight. The morning skate lines got announced about an hour ago. Rempe's a healthy scratch. So the fourth line is Edstrom, Carrick, Brodzinski. I like it. I like that fourth line. Obviously, we all know Johnny Brodzinski. He's going to keep doing good. Edstrom, he's got a chance to make a big statement here tonight because Carrick, I don't really like Carrick, but he's too irrelevant to really give a whole speech about it. It's just a fourth line pickup, fourth line center. We see them come and go all the time. Brodzinski and Edstrom, though, they'll be on the fourth line most of the season. Very excited to see it, but a lot of young guys on this team. Any one of these guys can break out. We're going to see a lot of bounce back seasons, I think. I feel like Mika Zibanejad is going to come back and play like nothing ever happened. They have Riley Smith on the line now, which I do want to take a brief moment to at least address our biggest acquisition from the offseason. Is Riley Smith enough to fix the 5v5 offense for the first line? Honestly, I think so. I watched them play together in preseason, and obviously it's preseason, so take it with a grain of salt. But Kreider, Zibanejad, and Smith, they looked really good. They scored quite a few 5-on-5 goals throughout preseason. And Riley Smith might have just came in and fixed that line. He's not the flashy acquisition we wanted to make. But hey, if it solves our problem, our number one problem, then who cares? As long as we get Kreider and Zibanejad back, specifically Zibanejad, I'm happy. And so far, obviously, 82 games. We're going to wait and see how it fully plays out. But heading into game one, I'm confident in Riley Smith.
Yeah, I still don't know how I feel about Riley Smith. I'm going to play the wait and see approach here. I want to see how he performs in this first game versus the Penguins, and then let's go on from there. I'm going to just keep an eye on him and say that I'm not confident. I'm not lacking confidence. I'm just waiting and seeing. I'm not completely familiar with his game. I, haven't watched a ton of him across the league, but I do know how important it is for the Rangers to stabilize that line with Kreider and Zibanejad and get a solid, consistent right winger there. I just don't know if he is going to be that just yet. And I think that as we look at this team, we discussed it a lot in the offseason that the Rangers didn't make the big splash at right wing that we thought that they would. They didn't bring in an absolute superstar to play alongside Kreider and Zibanejad. Instead, they brought in a player that they think can be solid and consistent to play on that line. However, are they going to end up making that splash midway through the year at the trade deadline? It's a possibility because of the way that the Rangers set up their books on the salary cap. They have a lot of maneuverability once they get to the deadline. They kind of cap strap themselves in the summer so that they could open up more money in the winter. And so is it going to be Riley Smith playing on that line all year long? Who knows? He actually is probably the top trade candidate on this team, despite him signing with the team only a few months ago. So I think we'll see how it goes there. Again, I'm going to keep an open mind with him. I don't have expectations for him one way or another. But, when you're looking at that line with Kreider and Zibanejad, you just hope and pray that Riley Smith is the one to be the catalyst to help them move forward and return to form.
It is definitely a wait and see type of game, but I don't know. There's something about this season. I'm confident. I'm going into it glass half full. You know, last year we talked about like a team of destiny. I don't think that's what we have this year. But I think we have a good team that has a realistic chance at making it far into the playoffs and possibly winning Stanley Cup. So overall, I'm very excited for the season. It's going to be a very entertaining year, in my opinion. I know, I don't know if you saw Anthony, but right when we started recording, Colin gave us his feedback. He said, I'm ready to get hurt all over again. So it looks like Colin is right into midseason form with the emotional roller coaster that is New York Rangers hockey. But like I said, I'm confident. I'm excited, ready to keep making content here on Fireside because there will be a lot. But I've about shared pretty much all my thoughts and predictions, unless you have any final things you want to bring up.
Go Rangers, man. I hope that this is a good season. Listen, any final things are just going to be, I can't wait to watch some more Vincent Trocheck this season. I can't wait to watch some more Alexi Lafreniere. And hey, we do have one player that we didn't even mention. And there's just a lot of news surrounding him. And it's kind of going to hang over the head of this team for at least the next few months. What's up with Igor Shesterkin? Let's see how he performs this year. Obviously, the news is he rejected the 8-year, $88 million contract, record-breaking contract that the Rangers offered him. And now also added into that news, he's upset with the Rangers for certain news getting leaked out there. So I don't know. This maybe could end up getting ugly. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe they end up resolving it. Who knows? It's kind of just up in the air, and it feels like the piano waiting to fall onto the head of Rangers fans. I don't know how it's going to end up. But at the end of the day, there's a few things we know. We mentioned team MVPs. We didn't mention Igor. We probably should have, because he absolutely could be the team MVP. He usually is in every game. But at the end of the day, I don't know how this gets resolved. I don't know where this ends because if you saw the reports a few weeks ago, Eric, Igor said that his deadline to get a deal done was opening night. And if he didn't have a deal done by then, he would not negotiate again until the following summer. So it's not like the Rangers are going to get something done. Yeah, we've got like 7 hours at the time of recording this. It's not like the Rangers are going to be able to get a deal done, realistically. So that means that they're going to have to wait until next summer to negotiate with him. And what if the season doesn't go as planned? Do they then just let him walk in free agency? That's the last thing we want to see, is our best player just walk in free agency and we get nothing. So then is it maybe we start losing games early in the year and we look to trade Igor? Like, that sounds ridiculous. But is it outside of the realm of possibility? I don't think it is. So, as we talk about all these storylines, we do our final review and we predict what's going to happen this upcoming season. That's the most unpredictable thing for me right now, and also maybe the most important for the direction of this team's future. What's going to happen with Igor Shesterkin? We're probably going to make like 100 videos on that over the next few months discussing Igor as we get more news and review the way he's played and debate this. But again, that just feels like the piano hanging overhead, waiting to fall, and we'll see if it ever does.
Yeah, no, see, you're right. And I kind of pushed the whole Igor discussion off to the side because I'm like, I feel like we need to dedicate its own episode for that. Like, there's so much going on with that we can talk about. I'm already getting vibes of the John Tavares situation with the Islanders a couple years ago, where Tavares was an upcoming free agent, and he just kept telling the Islanders, don't trade me at the deadline. I promise you, I'm going to sign. I'm going to sign over summer. And then summer came and he signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and like they got nothing for it. So I don't know. Maybe history repeats itself. Igor doesn't get his money from the Rangers and walks, and we get nothing. Or maybe we learn from history and we try to trade him. But it sounds insane to even say that. So I don't know. I'm going to just hold my tongue. We're going to make a specific episode to at least introduce the main plot line of the season pretty soon. So overall, though, I'm just going to ignore that. I don't want to get angry with Igor, even though I'm a little angry with him. I want to see him play tonight and be happy. So we'll see. We'll be back soon to continue to talk about this upcoming season. There's 82 full games. I promise we'll make more than 82 videos throughout those games. You heard it here first. So if you want to follow along with us this season and learn more about the Rangers and hear how we're feeling about the season as it goes by, make sure you guys hit that like button and you hit that subscribe button. We gave a lot of predictions in this episode. We'd love to hear yours. So please leave those in the comment section below. And if you want more daily Rangers content, be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers. Happy 2024-25 season. It'll be a fun one. But most importantly, let's go Rangers.